Can you hear me? Okay, good. My apologies for that. You can prepare with getting like your tech all set up beforehand and it still won't work for you. So good thing for alternative devices. So happy that you can all hear me and see me now. And I won't keep you waiting any longer. We'll just call the meeting to order once everybody else, I think maybe one more person. I think we're waiting on Marianne. Join back in. But yes, as you can see, we have a couple of guests with us tonight. Very exciting. We have Superintendent Peter Dart, and we also have Valerie Gerard joining us tonight. All right. We have a quorum, so we'll just call the meeting to order. It is 5:37 p.m. We'll start by going around and doing introductions. I'll start and then just pass it on to everyone else. If I miss anyone, please feel free to just jump in and introduce yourself as well. So I'm Jocelyn Santiago. I am the Early Childhood Services Coordinator for the town of Mansfield. I'm also the School Readiness Liaison for Mansfield. And I will pass it to Erin.
Hello, everybody. I'm Erin Clark from Mount Hope Montessori School.
And then we'll give it to Shamim.
Hi, I'm Shamim Patwa, the Director of Student Support Services.
Thank you. Kathleen.
Hello, Kathleen Kreider, Access Community Action Agency.
Thank you. Lisa.
Lisa Don, the Director at Community Children's Center.
And Deb, if you're able to unmute, no worries if not.
Yeah, hi, Debbie Flord, Mansfield Discovery Depot.
Thank you. And we'll give it to Marianne. Marianne might still be getting settled. Marianne is the Director of Yukon Child Labs. And then we'll go to our guests. We have Valerie.
Hi, Valerie Gerard, Early Childhood Mental Health Consultant with CHR.
And Peter.
Hi, everyone. Peter Dart, Superintendent of Schools, Mansfield Public Schools.
And then we have a Sophia that's signed on. I'm not sure if Sophia is able to unmute.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm just a student at UConn.
Okay, great. All right. Without further ado, we will move on to our guest presentations for tonight. So I will start it off and pass it off to Peter to talk to us about Mansfield Offline.
Yeah, thank you so much. And more importantly, thank you all for your service in supporting kids. I think one of the best parts of this community is that we unite strong in supporting what's best for our kids, and we do that knowing it's not one size fits all, but a mosaic of services and supports and providers that allows kids to be kids. So thank you so much for all that you guys do. Really, it's not a formal presentation, but an ask for MAC to be a sponsor of Mansfield Make Time for Offline. Some of you might be aware that the board started a summer read of The Anxious Generation. Did anyone read this book? Are you familiar with it? Shamim was the first person who introduced this to me, and I had some great conversations specifically with one parent in particular. And as people were having conversations about smartphones and the internet and kids with cell phones that gained traction across the state and across the country, there was also conversations about play-based learning and the importance of play. And if you've not read this book, I highly recommend. The Anxious Generation really threads the needle in terms of what we often try to put our finger on in terms of the problems that we're seeing with kids, that things have changed. And the author lays out a very compelling argument that really it's two things. It's the advent of the smartphone, that kids have unfettered access to social media and the internet 24/7, 365, and a lack of unstructured free play that really through the 2000s, families started to worry about safety. And so instead of having kids being able to play and build forts outside, they were brought inside. And of course, we saw this with the pandemic, that there was this turning to the internet and giving kids access to social media platforms. And in The Anxious Generation, they talk about the negative impact that globally we've seen with kids in terms of mental health, attendance, participation in civic organizations, depression, all kinds of things. Yet countering that was this absolute spike after 2009 when smartphones started to hit the hands of people. And it's been this exponential curve that feels a little bit out of control. And so the board invited people to do a community read. We had great conversations about how do we best support a community that cares for its kids to help families make good, smart decisions around appropriate use of technology, and how do we support and encourage play. And so I met with the board chair and a couple other members who really wanted to create an initiative that will cross departments and teams. It's not a Board of Ed piece. It's something that we want to live with, perhaps with MAC, with the Park and Rec Department, Town Council, library, and families and businesses. And the idea is pretty simple. And I emailed you the flyer, but Mansfield Make Time for Offline really is just a pledge. And I'm looking for MAC's endorsement, and I'd like to brand MAC with this, along with the Board of Ed and E.O. Smith and other organizations that join us, that we stand together to pledge to support and encourage people to play more, to exercise, create, engage, connect, and host events. But we also pledge to make time for offline. And let me be clear what that means. It means to have conversations in person, to create self-free moments and places and times, to delay the use of smartphone use and social media for children under 16, and to model for children and others in our community the appropriate ways to best live with technology. And so, you know, this is a kind of a grassroots movement kind of approach that we're inviting people to share their ideas of how do you play. On the back side of the flyer, we've listed just a beginning point of things like, here are all the playscapes in Mansfield. Here are the sporting events in Mansfield. Here are the restaurants. Here are things that you can do. But we need the synergy of teams, departments, people, families. And I'd like to eventually even go to our area businesses and ask restaurants, would you be willing to co-sponsor and create cell-free nights in your restaurants? Kind of like the old no smoking zone, maybe a no cell phone zone for it. We know that our kids benefit when we stand together and we stand united. And I can't think of a better thing to stand for in terms of let's play more. Let's find opportunities where kids can have productive struggle without adults telling them what to do and how to play. And let's make sure that technology is used responsibly, and know that there's a developmental element to this, that kids really under 16 should not be engaging in social media. We know that's a frontier that is easily abused and misused and misunderstood. And while we can do things between bells in our schools, we really need to think about the wraparound effect of a community that all is speaking the same languages or language, and all really encouraging the same kinds of things. The last thing I'll say, and I know this is a group that thinks about kids who are really, really young. We believe that it's actually our new young families with young kids that need to acculturate to the idea that it's okay to delay smartphones until age 16 or later. Too often, we hear fifth grade families with fifth graders, feel the social pressure. And of course, kids, you know what they say. Everyone has a phone but me. Mom and dad, I want a phone. And without a network, often families start to buckle in and they think about safety and they're like, well, I guess they're old enough to have a phone. Well, every single room in our schools have phones. Even our closets have phones. So kids can call anytime they want to talk to their families. That's not the reason to get a smartphone. And if you feel like because of safety issues and you want to be able to call a child, get a jitterbug or a flip phone. You know, you don't need a smartphone. There are cheaper, easier options to use that technology appropriately without giving kids really a computer that gives them access to the internet that sadly leads to a lot of dark elements. And so I'll pause with that. Love to hear your reactions and answer any questions. But Jocelyn, I'd be thrilled if you feel like Mac could vote on a support tonight, or if you'd like to talk about it and put it on a future agenda, I'm happy to do that. If you sign on board, we'll give you some posters and stickers and promotional items that we would ask that you share with your communities. And just know that everyone who's a part of this conversation is free to grab this and be a spokesperson for this event, or invite me or invite someone from my team to come and talk. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's great. And I would be interested in Mac exploring this and feeling out the waters, how everyone else is feeling about this and what we can do to support it, even if it's, you know, creating additional materials for you for activities for families that they could do at a low cost, or something that youth services could also help with. It made me laugh just because I was also talking with the middle school aged kiddos in my family about how my first cell phone was a very simple phone. It had no texting, no internet. It was number 1 was my mom's phone, number 2 was my dad's phone, 3 was dad's work, 4 was mom's work. And that was it. There was a 911 button in the middle, and that's all I needed. So it's funny that you mentioned that. I think people forget that other phones do exist other than iPhones and other kinds of smartphones, since, you know, that's what everyone has these days.
Right.
So.
Right.
So my first phone plugged into the wall. So Peter, I wanted to mention, and anybody else, Peter, you have to remind me, did you attend the 119K Commission's event in the Mansfield Town Hall maybe 4 or 5 months ago on the disaffected youth, opportunity youth? Did anybody attend that?
I didn't.
Okay, so I think that this is a good dovetail. And Jocelyn, I just forwarded you what it is I'm talking about so that you can send it to MAC as a whole. So the Connecticut Council of Municipalities, CCM, partnered with the Dalio Foundation, which, for those of you who don't know the word Dalio, they're a deep pocket funder coming out of Fairfield County, and they sort of head towards education is like their big bucket, and they're a very, very deep pocket funder. And they partnered with the Connecticut Council of Municipalities, which is like the Connecticut governance, like municipalities, right? The municipal structures in the state, the town of Mansfield, the town of. And they commissioned a pretty good sized report called the 119K Commission report. And 119K, 119,000 disaffected / opportunity youth. And they're using youth, I think, to mean 16 to 21 years of age. And their report came out, and you can see the report if you go to the CCM website and the 119K Commission. It's very prominent on their website. And there are 119,000 kids in the state of Connecticut between the ages of 16 and 21 who are at risk. And they have a definition of at risk: they're significantly at risk, moderately at risk, totally at risk. And of course, you know, they use the same methodology that lots of reports use, where they have a map of the state of Connecticut with all of the towns on them. And then they use a color gradient, from pale or barely visible to a dark color, and red is the color that they're choosing to use. And when you look at the map of the state of Connecticut, where the most amount of disaffected opportunity youth are, that is entirely Windham County. I know Mansfield isn't Tolland County. Anyway, I think that this is a nice dovetail because this report talks about technology. It talks about cell phones in schools. Again, they're looking at a population slightly older than the population that Peter is the superintendent for, just, out of, into Region 19, right? So they're looking at that middle school to high school aged kid. Middle school is you, and then, high school age kid. Anyways, it's worth looking at. And what I sent you, Jocelyn, is an opportunity to hear the commission's next steps. So they've done this big statewide listening tour. They did come to the town of Mansfield. It was probably in the month of May. I'm not exactly sure when. And then they access EastCon. We worked with and the town of Canterbury, quite frankly. Chris Lipke was the only representative from the Northeast corner to this commission. So the town of Canterbury, EastCon, and Access partnered together to bring this listening opportunity to the deep Northeast. We hosted this at EastCon in the month of July. And so I encourage you guys to look at this document. And Peter, I can't speak for all of MAC, but I think this is a terrific opportunity to support these concepts and what you're asking for. I don't know, Jocelyn, what the next steps are, but I'm sure you'll lead us well. And thank you, Peter, for spearheading this.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Just want to add, I also think this is a great idea. We in my family, I have nephews who are 8 years old and already have cell phones, and I cannot believe my sister made that decision. And on the other side, myself and my husband are, looking at how do we keep the internet away from our child? How do we make it so that he can learn tech skills without being exposed to all of the bad that's on the internet? So having this be something that's really widespread, so there's less of that, but my friends have it pressure would be great.
Would anyone else like to share anything? All right, Peter, usually MAC is a quiet crew right after a presentation. So I will absolutely add the motion to be a sponsor for our next agenda for our next meeting. And then, yeah, we can get back to you about that. But if I'm feeling the climate right now, it sounds like something that we would definitely be interested in.
Great. Well, I really appreciate it. And if anyone in your private endeavors and your public lives and whatever you do, if you want any of these materials, please just feel free to reach out. Again, no one is owning this. This is a community movement, and so feel free to take on the charge and more importantly, openly share how you play. I had an opportunity to ask my leaders, how do you play? And there was a lot of head scratching. And, people wondered, like, how do I play? And so I think normalizing play is an important part of it, and looking for those opportunities to help our families, especially with the young kids, to think about ways of building independence in play, and even just doing things on their own. Like, here's $5, walk to the store, buy a loaf of bread, and come back. You'd be surprised at how many common experiences that were once part of normal growing up, our kids don't have. And I realize that families have to balance that with safety and that gradual release of responsibility, but kids need productive struggle just as much as they need just time to be creative and play outside. So thank you so much. And again, thank you for your leadership and service.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
All right.
Jess, can I say something, Jess?
Yeah.
So it always takes me a little while. I have to percolate what I'm hearing, and it's hard for me if I haven't read the materials to get up to speed. But I often find that Of course, I'm a huge proponent of play, but there also is this sort of cultural idea to make rules about play. You know, you could do it for this many minutes over here and then, done with that. So I've started to refer to play as dream time so that it doesn't have any kind of overlay. It's just being and just doing whatever it is you're doing with no really expectation wrapped around it. So I just
Mhm.
thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you. Before we jump into our next guest, just going off of what Lisa said too, during introductions, I also wanted to recognize Marianne for inviting a lot of the school readiness centers and myself to the CTAEYC conference that was in Mystic. It was wonderful. And a lot of the workshops were just centered around like, what is play and what is true play? And is it something we're telling children that they need to go do, or is it something they're truly deciding that they want to do and deciding how they want to engage with that material? So thank you again, Marianne, for that opportunity. It was a wonderful conference. All right, our next guest is Valerie Gerard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Valerie, and as I introduced myself before, I am an early childhood mental health consultant with CHR. We utilize the ECCP model, and I kind of just wanted to introduce myself. A lot of you may be familiar with my coworker, Ruth, who has been in many of your centers. Since I was hired, I'm kind of taking over this area of the state, and she's kind of focusing more on the Manchester, South Windsor area, so I will be the new consultant for Mansfield. And if you don't know much about the ECCP model, we have a few different services. We have a core classroom, a child-specific, and we also go into family child care centers if there's any family child care centers that are looking for resources. And in the core classroom, we kind of work alongside the teachers, the directors, and kind of just working overall on the classroom environment, whether it's routines and transitions or if they're the physical environment, there's anything we can work on with the teacher to kind of make their lives a little bit easier and kind of just revamp with them. That's kind of what we do with the core classroom. And then child specific is when we work with one specific child in the classroom. We observe both in the classroom and in the home. And of course, parent permission is required for that one. And we work alongside them. It's a shorter service than the core classroom. But we are just targeted on one child, or you can do both together where you have a core classroom with a child nested into that classroom, which is our most effective service since you're working in the environment as a whole and that one specific child, because a lot of the things that we do with the specific children can be applied to all children just because everyone can always use some bolstering on some social emotional skills. So that's usually our biggest, most popular service. And we also offer community trainings. The core classroom service comes with a training for the staff at the center that we're in. And we also offer mental health consultation groups a few times a year. So we have quite a few services. I can send out a couple of the flyers that we have with some of my contact information on it after the meeting, so that if you only have Ruth's contact information or no one's at all, I'll send out mine so that you can contact me if you're interested. There is a little bit of a wait list. We're transitioning from Ruth's wait list to mine right now since she was servicing this area. But we are always taking referrals and we're happy to chat. So if you're interested, you can always email me or call me. All my contact info will be on the flyers that I send out.
Great. Does anyone have any questions or comments at this time?
So I just wanted to clarify, so we won't have Ruth anymore?
Right. Ruth is no longer servicing Mansfield now. It'll just be me for this area.
Gotcha.
Lisa?
Will you come in?
Sorry, Deb, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Will you be coming in and like introducing yourself at all, or?
If centers are interested, I can always come in and meet in person. but it's always up to the center if they're more comfortable with that. It's up to them. I'm trying to join a bunch of different community groups to kind of get my name out and meet people and kind of, you know, make those connections. So if that's a connection that would be interested in, then I would be more than happy to come do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Lisa?
Hi, Val. I wonder how long the wait list is once you put in a request for services.
So it depends on how many people are on the wait list. For child specifics, they're a little bit of a shorter service since there's only 2 service visits after. So it's usually like 6 to 8 weeks for a child service to be completely done, but we usually do a few of those at a time, so they're always staggered. Since I'm just starting kind of my own classrooms in child services, I have a few classrooms open right now and a few children. So it's usually like 6 weeks-ish before we open another one. But if there's a more urgent case that's more imminent, sometimes they'll take precedence, but usually it's when the referral comes in, they get moved to the, you know, the wait list just keeps going and going. But right now I think I have maybe 3 children on my wait list. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. It would probably be like 8 weeks to start if someone sent in a referral right now. Just because I'm trying to work down Ruth's wait list that she had since she was covering the whole kind of northeast part of the state. She had a bit of a wait list, so I'm trying to help her out and knock down hers a little bit first. But we're always taking referrals, and when I talk with my supervisor, she can help me kind of plan out the timing a little bit better. It's easy to find a better timeline with our program since it's so regimented, since it's evidence-based. We can really lay it out and give people an idea of how long it would take depending on when the referral comes in.
And it sounds like maybe if you wanted to see you sooner, this core classroom service is the way to go.
Yeah, our core classrooms is like mostly our top service. So you can always do a nested child in the core classroom, and that way that child gets boosted to the top of the wait list since they're in the nested classroom. So that's a route a lot of centers go because they can always use some extra support in the classroom, but you're still focusing on that one specific child as well.
Sounds great. Thank you.
I was wondering, you never do any like parent education for like multiple families or something like that?
Yeah, unfortunately with like the child specific, we work with the family, but it is only one family at a time. But
Right.
I could ask my supervisor if I believe our community trainings are open to anyone in the public. So parents would be more than willing to come to the community trainings, then it's open for them as well.
Okay.
I can ask Ruth when she's doing any community trainings and get back to Jocelyn to send that out since I haven't started my own yet, but Ruth is still doing hers. And they're always open to the public. So I can give that information.
Thanks.
I have to tell you that Ruth did a training for our staff last month, and it was really, really, really good.
Yeah, I actually think I'm gonna have to get the information for sure, but I think she's doing a family engagement training in November. So I can get that information and send it to Jocelyn to send out if that's something that people are interested in. It's a newer training. It used to be one that we did for centers, but it got so popular that they started doing it as a community training. So I can get that information as well.
Awesome. Does anyone have any other questions for Valerie at this time? All right, well, also
hold on, Jocelyn. So will Ruth be finishing up her services that she's doing with our classes currently?
Yeah, she'll finish out all the services that she currently has open. She just won't be opening any new cases in Mansfield.
Thank you.
Right. And happy to report too that Valerie is a official voting member of MAC now, so she'll be joining us at all future MAC meetings for as long as we can have her. So looking forward to that. For those of you who don't know, Valerie and I also used to be toddler co-teachers back in the day. So it's really cool to see her in this role now and still connected to Mansfield. She's a very valuable resource to MAC and our community.
Thanks, Jocelyn.
You're welcome. All right, moving along, public comments. Sophia, are you here for a public comment or just here to attend the MAC meeting?
Oh, I'm just here to attend the MAC meeting. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Yeah. Doesn't look like anyone else I don't recognize is signed on, but I will just ask for the record. Is anyone here for public comment? Okay, we'll go with no. The next item on our agenda is approval of minutes. It's been a long time since we've had a MAC meeting before this. So those June 5th minutes, if we have a motion to approve those. I saw
So
Lisa.
moved. Oh, did you
I
get
saw
it?
Lisa. Yeah, and then Kathleen will put as a second. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Consumers could face challenges and
Aye.
changes as well as
Any opposed?
struggles based on what's going on throughout the region.
All right. It seems we are unanimous. So minutes are approved. Moving along to school readiness updates. I just have a few for you since it is the beginning of the year. Q1 site visits to all 4 of our school readiness centers have been complete. All of them were great site visits. No action items required from any of the centers at this time. And it's just always so lovely to be in the classrooms and see all of the children thriving in all of these different environments and how each center has something really special to their own. So just wanted to give that feedback. It was wonderful. I love connecting with your staff and talking with them and the kiddos who come up to me and are like, who are you? Why are you here? Is always puts a smile on my face. We were basically full with our school readiness grant slots, but we did have a few families that did a last minute shuffle and decided to not send their child to childcare at this time or to find alternative centers at this time. So I am working with a couple of centers to move those last few grant the waitlist slots into the grant now. So we expect those to be filled though very soon by the end of the week, hopefully. And then I just wanted to remind everyone that this fiscal year, there will be no quarterly enrollment grant that the centers are receiving. Instead, the centers will be receiving the private provider payment. And I'm working with our finance department to get that paid to you as soon as possible. You will also be receiving COLA funds this year as well. So again, working with finance to get that paid in a timely manner for you all. And then my last reminder for school readiness is that quality enhancement funds are available for you. It's the same amounts that we had last year, that $3,881. So if you have things like first aid training, CPR trainings, any kind of trainings that cost money, professional developments that cost money, contracted services, supplies, if you have any supply needs that benefit your program or young children in general, you are welcome to submit your receipts to me, or if you would prefer supplies wise that we order it or buy it for you and then bring it to your center, we can do that too. And with that, that is it for my school readiness report for tonight. Moving into member reports, I'll just kick it off real quick with youth services to give you an update. For those of you that don't know, Katie Bell has left her position here with the town of Mansfield. We have a new youth services supervisor starting with us on October 15th. We're really excited for that. Her name is Sarah DeLuca. She comes from Child First, and she has a long history there with them. So we are excited to have her join our team. Would anyone else like to share anything going on in your world? Kathleen?
It's minor and, probably wouldn't even show up on a radar, but I'll mention it anyway. So for a very, 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 very long time, Access Community Action Agency has either been the lead contractor or the subcontractor to the Women, Infants, and Children WIC program. As of October 1, that contract will be held by Day Kimball, and Access will act, quite frankly, as the landlord to the space. So we are, Access is no longer involved in providing WIC services. To the customer, it doesn't look any different because they're still coming to Access Community Action Agency to receive WIC services. But I think it's important to note that those services are being provided by Day Kimball Hospital. The staff in our space are wearing Day Kimball Hospital badges, and in the past they wore Access badges. And so we are just the landlord to the space.
All right, thank you. Marianne? I can't hear you, Marianne. Can others hear Marianne right now? No? Okay.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm having all sorts of computer issues, sorry.
Me too.
The trauma responsive classroom training that several of you attended when I was kind of going through the authorization process. I'm videotaping that right now, so I have a recording that's going to be ready in a couple of weeks tops. And I know that we're not going to see each other for a little while, so I just wanted to let you know that if you're interested, I can send you on that recording, or if you really want like an in-person whole staff, you know, professional development workshop, we can talk about that too. So just throwing it out there. Nobody has to jump on it now or anything.
Thanks, Marianne. All right, anyone else? Lisa?
You know, I just wanted to add my thanks to Jocelyn was thanking Marianne for I don't know, somehow paying for all this staff to go to the kayak conference, and it was a great conference. We had a number of our staff go, and they came back so jazzed. So thank you so much. That was a really nice community networking thing. We really appreciate that.
Well, thank you both for recognizing that. So the lab schools in Connecticut have been given some funding from the Office of Early Childhood, and that's how all of these trainings have been made possible. That's why I could send folks there, and that's why I could do the trauma responsive training myself, and to, you know, offer it for free to other people in the community. And we have a couple other things coming up that I'm excited about. So well, I'm happy to be kind of the conduit to get it to the community. It's all through like the OEC funding. So
Well, you're an awesome conduit, so.
Yes, and the Mansfield energy was definitely in the building at the conference. It was wonderful seeing so many of your staff and everyone just coming together, sitting together at lunch, taking photos together at all their little photo prop stands. It was really awesome. So yes, thank you to the OEC and Marianne. Anyone else? Okay. Upcoming agenda items, we will vote at our next MAC meeting for proposed meeting dates. My plan is to kind of just generally keep it the same as it's been, but I'll take a closer look at that. But if anyone has any conflicts with our current kind of style of schedule for MAC meetings, please reach out to me and let me know. And then we'll also add, I want everyone to take some time to look at the flyer Peter had sent and think about Mansfield offline, think about ways also that MAC could contribute to this. And then we'll vote on if we want to be a sponsor for that.
Can I revive something that we talked about quite a few years ago, but just even in conjunction with that, how families play with children. We had talked about that and it never really fully launched, but maybe there's some space for thinking about opportunities or examples of how to play without technology. You know, if we start that younger, and I know you do it all in your centers, but building momentum for later on too. So I find like a lot of families just don't know how to play. And maybe that's the niche for MAC.
I like that.
And
Yeah.
I could add that I want to bring it up again, that Ithaca Children's Garden Anarchy Zone. I love it. I loved it. And it's so playful because you go in there and you just have to come up with something to do with all these parts. You pick them up, you move them around, you come up with something. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, and I think that that's a good thing to highlight too, that you don't need the latest and greatest toys or all sorts of toys to necessarily play. There are lots of ways to play and lots of ways you can engage with just regular household materials too, or just be
And I don't know if
part.
people are aware, you don't have a library person here today, but they've
No.
got a lending library of toys now, or games, I believe. So that's another positive, connection with this anxious generation work.
I also, as I look in these tiles, Lisa, you may remember this. So a long time ago, in conjunction with the library, Mac worked with, I dropped a link in the chat to the Proponent of Play, Jeff Smithson's website. We curated a series of workshops. My memory is terrible, but we curated a series of workshops and Jeff led them, and they were, I think, designed for parents, and then they were designed for kids, and then they were designed for kids and parents. I think I do feel like there were 3 of them. I think Jeff would have a better memory. Marianne, who was the director of MDD, was involved in putting this together, and Judy from the Children's Library, blah, 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 myself. It was a long time ago. But I did drop Jeff's link back into the chat. He is still out there doing his Proponent of Play stuff. Just FYI.
Yeah, we had him at CCC for staff trainings too.
Yeah, and I think his son
Yeah.
Ollie went to CCC. No, Ollie went to MDD.
Yeah.
And Ollie is now a sophomore in high school playing on the soccer team. So yeah, just FYI to all of you, there is somebody in our community who is, well, he's a professional clown, quite frankly, but is a proponent of play. Should that be useful to us?
Yeah, he's great to work with.
Yeah, he is great to work with.
He did workshops at Child Labs too.
Probably, yeah.
He did.
Awesome. Well, maybe we can get him to do like a Mac Center, and whoever else is invited, maybe a training for us, or just invite him to the meeting to talk with us as we brainstorm and develop what kind of course of action we want to take for this.
Yeah, he is a hospital clown by day, but this is his life work and his life lens, and how he comes to everything that he does is through this lens of play. So he's a good advocate.
Thank you.
Jocelyn, if you want me to reach out, I see him pretty regularly on the sidelines of soccer at Yale. So
okay, awesome.
I can be like, hey, put a little buzz in his ear.
That would be great. All right. Anything else anyone would like to add before we adjourn? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Shamim, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning?
Adjourning.
All right. Everyone have an amazing evening. We are adjourned. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, guys.